In this video, we're going to learn the basics of 3D design and printing by making a name tag for ourselves through using Tinkercad. So the first thing we need to do is either sign in or join if you don't already have an account. And then let's begin. Okay, once you're signed in, you want to click on 3D Designs if you're not already on your dashboard, and then create a new design. Okay, this is our work plane. But before we begin building our name tag, we want to edit our grid. It defaults to millimeters, so we want to change it in this case to inches. We're going to leave our default the same with our length and our width and just click Update Grid. Down below it says Snap Grid, and this allows you to change the size of these little squares in between, so your measurements. We're going to leave it at 1/8 of an inch, but it's nice sometimes to be able to change it into smaller spaces. So let's start. First thing we're going to do is grab our ruler and drag it over to our work plane. I like to put it towards the front just so it's out of the way, but this gives us our measurements as we're working. If without it, it'd just be a box on our work plane. This way we can tell what size the box is. So let's begin. We're going to start by dragging over a cube. And as you can see, we have 3 different measurements. We have our width, we have our depth, and we have our height. So for this case, we want to begin by making our width 4 inches. And we're going to make our depth 2 inches. This gives us a cube, that's 4 by 2. And we're going to make our height 0.125, or 1/8 of an inch. If you notice over here, this is 0. We could change this measurement here. This tells us that we're at this point flat on the work plane. You want to maintain a flat surface on your work plane. You don't want to be floating in the air because the 3D printer can't print if it's floating in the air. So you always want to make sure you have something that is on the 0 on working on this work plane. If I come over here to this cube, I can kind of adjust my work plane so I can see what I'm doing, and I can tell that I'm flat on the surface, and I can see my measurements. If I click the home button, it'll take me back to where I began. Okay, so this is the beginning of our name tag. The next thing we want to do is scroll down to find text. So we want to grab the text button and grab it and drag it over onto our plate. The next thing you want to do is change the color of the text. This just makes it easier to see what you're working with. So I'm just going to change mine to a gold color. This allows me to really see the difference between where the text is and where the plate is. So then we need to change the name, because unless you want to have text as your text, you're going to change it, and this is where you can highlight where it says text and then write your name or initials, whichever you choose to do. I'll just start by writing Jane. The fonts, you have an option of like 4 fonts. So you can take the time, pick your font. See which one you like best. Okay, and once you've got that, I'm going to scroll this so that I can see it from the top, because I want to center my name on my nameplate. And I can just sort of judge it, say like that. If you need to, you can click on the name, the red part, and then you can change the width and the height of your name, just to make sure it fits. If you have a longer name, you may want it a little longer than 4 inches. But this looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to click on the home so I can see it from my normal way. Now I'm going to click on the name, and I'm going to come up here to where it says whole, and I'm going to click whole, and it's going to turn it into a whole. As you can see, it turns this gray striped pattern. That means it's a whole. Now, the next part is you want to go outside of your nameplate onto your grid and then click and drag a red dotted line around it. Once you do that, you'll see up here this group button shows up, gets highlighted. We want to click group. When I do that, it will turn my name into a whole. And there you go. So you can see it completely see-through. Okay, next, we want to put some holes in our nameplate so we can hang it. So I'm going to drag a cylinder over. The cylinder, although it's round, you still have to, it shows as a width, a depth, and a height also. So we need to alter that. We want our width and our depth to be about 0.25, about a quarter of an inch. But we need to change both measurements, otherwise it won't be a circle. The height doesn't matter because once again we're going to make it a hole. So now I'm going to drag, but before I drag it over though, I need two. I want to put two, one on each corner. So instead of making a second one, I can just come up here to this little icon where it says duplicate and repeat and click duplicate. That's going to make two. So if I click off onto my grid, I can just see my cylinder here, and if I just click and drag, I have two cylinders that are exactly the same. So now I can drag them over. I'm going to move my work plane so I can make sure I'm getting these at the right spot. You don't want them to be too far out that you miss. So I can drag make it look like, make sure it's all even. Looks pretty good. Tweak it a little bit. And this is when the snap grid could come in handy because I can make my movements even smaller. Okay. Okay, now before we continue to turn these into a hole, I'm going to click my hole button on this one, click the hole button on that one. Now I'm going to make my red dotted line around it. Once again, group. And I have a hole. If I've decided that my holes weren't in the right spot, I can, once again, I can highlight around it and I can ungroup it. Ungrouping it turns it back into the way you had it before, and you can make any alterations. Once I'm happy with the alterations, I can regroup it. Okay, almost done. Now, if you can notice, with my lowercase a and my e, if I print this out, these little centerpieces are going to fall off. They're not attached to anything, so we have to make sure it's attached. So it needs to look like, if you noticed, a stencil always has those bars going through them so that they can remain attached as one piece. Otherwise, this would just be an empty hole. So now we need to create the bars to support this. So once again, I'm going to move that back to center. I'm going to grab a box, move it anywhere on your work plane, it doesn't matter. I'm going to leave my depth at about 1 inch. I can change that if I need it later on. But I'm going to take my width and I'm going to make it 0.0625. Let's try that again. 0.0625. And that makes a very small bar. The height, I need to change to the height of my name tag, which is 0.125. Okay, now I have a very small bar. You need to count how many you're going to need. In this case, I'm going to need 2. So I'm going to highlight that, click duplicate, and then drag that apart, and now I have 2. So now I'm going to increase my screen a little bit. I'm going to level this down, and then I can drag. Uh-oh. Here we go. Drag one down. Let's center it. This is where I can use my arrows on my keyboard to move these over incrementally. See how that's a big jump? I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make this 1/64th, and then I can slowly make my bar move over to the left. Okay, now I'm going to grab the other one and do the same thing. And then once again, I need to highlight and group. And there we go. Now my name tag is ready for printing. So the next thing we need to do is click Export. You always want to download this as an STL file. It's going to download. Then you can put it on a flash drive, or you can send it right to your 3D printer. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have fun designing. Thank you.